because company building is chaotic. You said it earlier. People come, they build a system, then they leave, nothing's documented. The next person comes, they build a new system, and they leave, and it just really becomes crazy. It's no wonder that 10% of new businesses fail in their first year, and in the next 4 years, 70% fail. But you and I are not going to let that happen, because you have developed an amazing accelerator to help people with their businesses.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Marketing for Startups podcast. Today I'm letting you behind the scenes of my accelerator. So I run a sales and marketing growth accelerator whose aim is to help female founders get from 6 to 7 figures. And each and every month inside that program, we have a mastermind with different experts that are going to talk about the latest trends in marketing and other systems that you can implement into your business to grow and scale. And so this first mastermind that I'm sharing here on the podcast is with Ernesto Mandowsky, who is a dear, dear friend, but also a systems expert. Okay, so he's the CEO of CPD Advisors, which is a training company focused on scaling organizations to $10 million. He has a degree in systems engineering and over a decade building systems for startups, scaling organizations, and Fortune 500 companies. Ernesto has designed his proprietary 6-pillar system to improve performance and profitability. He has inspired leaders to reinvigorate their organizations through delivering dozens of workshops and through Regenerate Your Business podcast, which is his podcast. And when he's not working, he enjoys reading, going to CrossFit like me, and baking challah bread. He's actually a dear, dear friend, and I'm so excited to share this workshop with all of you out there in podcast land. I know you're going to get a lot from it. So without further ado, here is our monthly mastermind with Ernesto Mandowsky.
For this mastermind workshop, where we're going to be learning all about systems. I know that you have a lot of juicy information to share with us to help us get started with systems in our business. And for all of us here that are watching and listening, systems are a pain point. Systems are a pain point because we know how important they are and how much easier they'll make our lives. But why is it so difficult to get them actually started in our business? So do you want to, let's start with there. Give a little insight to everyone about who you are and why you have the authority to talk about systems, and then answer this question: why is it so hard?
That question, it goes pretty deep. So a little background on myself. I spent the last 15 years bringing the worlds of hospitality, systems, technology, and recently honeybees and how they work all together into creating a comprehensive curriculum that will take someone from absolute newbie to systems sorcerer in as fast as they want to go. I work with companies now up to $10 million in revenue, and I basically have developed a framework called the 6P system that makes it easy to digest the concept of systems, because everyone talks about systems, but few people can actually tell you what a system is. Like, what is a system?
Yeah. And this is the framework we're going to go through today, right? This is what you're going to teach us today.
Yes, I'm going to teach you the 6P system today. I'll give you kind of an introduction on how you can start with it. I have some free tools. I have some paid tools. I have all kinds of tools for people to get started at their own pace.
All right, before we get started, I do want to ask you a question. Do you feel like there's a huge difference between, small solopreneurs and their sort of like failure to launch, that kind of difficulty with starting the systems, versus these $10 million companies that you're going with? Is it true that like these larger companies just have it together so much better? Or do you think that there's kind of like a commonality of why people have trouble with starting with systems, regardless of their revenue size?
Yeah. The big companies don't have it together.
Yeah, right.
no one has it together. We all like put on this face and we have these beautiful brands, but like there's always some crazy chaos inside. I mean, I worked at Deloitte. I went to one of the largest hotel chains in the world.
Yeah.
And we were figuring out how they deploy changes on their website. And we spoke to 15 people, and all 15 of them gave us different responses. So it's not like, they have it together. They just have been surviving longer than everyone else. How they've been surviving, there's many reasons. Having some semblance of a system is an important point to your question about like, at what point do you get started? Now, I mean, people think of systems and they're like, oh my God, I gotta have like the Asana, I gotta have all the crazy big systems set up in my business, and that's not the case. I mean, later in our talk today, I'll share like it's just about creating 1% gains every day. Like you don't have to have the whole full-blown Notion system or whatever system set up. You just have to slowly improve how you work every single day.
Yeah. And what I'm so excited about, and I want to dive in and get started, but I think that in my experience working in many different organizations, systems need to be taken care of. They need to be iterated and improved upon. As you grow, systems will have to grow with you. But what you're going to teach us today, and what is the absolute table legs for operations in your business, is having some sort of framework to jump off of, right? It's like,
correct.
Yes, systems are going to have to grow and change as you grow and change. But if you don't have the ground floor in your business, it's going to be like when you have to implement a system or you want to it's almost like you're going to feel like you have to start from scratch. What you teach with this framework, in laying that ground floor, it gives you like that starting point. So even if you're just starting with systems, or you need to kind of like organize existing systems, you like working off of a proven framework makes everything so much easier. It's not like you're starting over all the time when you have to do those iterations. So why don't you go now? Let's go ahead and share screen. If you want to go ahead and share screen, and I'll make it nice and full so everyone can see it big. And let's just jump right in.
I will share screen before we dive in. You asked a question earlier about when's the right time, or what's the right scale, or like why is it so difficult for people to start building systems?
Yeah.
And so there's two sides. There's the right brain, there's the left brain, there's the yin, there's the yang, there's the night, there's the day, there's duality that exists in our world. And in our companies, the duality is between growth, which is what you do with sales and marketing. It's like very much growth. And then there's scale. And then there's being more efficient. And it's more of like the inside of the company. And so founders typically are very much growth oriented. They know scaling is important, but they're just so focused on growth that they cannot get to the scale. Mm-hmm. So either they're insanely OCD and they can like switch from both. They can do that context switch, but most people are not that conscious. I mean, it's not even worth it for a founder to be trying to scale, to like be doing this system stuff. So I really teach founders like, hey, you got to let go of the systems and find someone who will do this while you go do the fun stuff, the sales, the growth, the speaking, the podcast, the marketing, the content. Like, that's the fun stuff I think founders are more positioned to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, I think even being able to get someone else to build that for you effectively requires framework, right? Because people will come in, and I think one of the real big pain points for a lot of businesses that I've been inside is the fact that like someone will build a system and then they'll leave, and then someone else will come in and build a different system with the tech stack they're comfortable with, and then they'll leave, and no one's documenting their processes. There's no SOPs. And so you do have this start and stop and start and stop. And it's so connected to the individual that set up everything, because you're not creating holistic systems for your business. It's kind of like these siloed systems for whomever's executing whatever. And that's, I think, part of for people at every level.
Every level. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to get going.
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, let's get into it.
So, okay. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
I'm gonna make this full. You're gonna jam on about this, what you got to teach us, and if I got a question, I'm gonna.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna prompt you. I'm gonna prompt you as well, because you're my audience of one live, but obviously audience of many out in the field listening to this recording. So we're gonna start. My first question is, name this brand?
Ooh, Mercedes.
Great, name this brand. It's up there. I should have blotted it out.
I mean, the next time.
I'll blot that out next time.
Yeah.
And name this brand.
Ooh.
This is tougher.
Ooh. Is this Erewhon?
Oh, that would be a great guess.
That new fancy
the fancy.
Is it Whole
Erewhon.
Foods? It looks like a Whole Foods.
It is Whole Foods. And so, what do these three have in common?
They're all mega big brands.
They're all mega big brands, and they also have consistency.
Yeah.
When you say the name Mercedes, Whole Foods, or Ritz-Carlton, you know what you're going to get. And so what are the results that consistency creates for you in your business?
Well, I think it makes the prospect, the customer, the client feel safe because they know what they're getting. There's that trust.
Sure.
Trust.
Like, what are you getting as a business?
Well, I mean, I can say from a marketing hat, but with consistent.
One word.
Ooh, what do we get? Money?
Revenue.
Yeah.
You get revenue, you get customers, you get team members, employees, you get media appearances, you get fame, you go on Oprah, you get family time. If you are consistent about your time off, you get time with family. And so what gets in the way of consistency? And at every step of the journey, chaos is in the way. Chaos is in the way because building a business is nuts.
Yeah.
So how do I know this? I spent my career in hospitality. And when I told my parents that I wanted to do restaurants, they said I was crazy. I did it anyways. I spent 10 years building systems, launching a bakery in my apartment, working in Fortune 500, working in restaurant groups, working in tech startups, and even working at a $100 million family-owned business, which is the Palm. Where you are. Always feels chaotic. Everything is a mess on the inside. This company building is chaotic. You said it earlier. People come, they build a system, then they leave. Nothing's documented. The next person comes, they build a new system, and they leave, and it just really becomes crazy. It's no wonder that 10% of new businesses fail in their first year, and in the next 4 years, 70% fail. But you and I are not going to let that happen because you have developed an amazing accelerator to help people with their businesses. Exactly. So there's lots of reasons out in the market. There's external reasons for failure. But the founder of HP, David Packard, actually says more organizations die of indigestion than from starvation.
Ooh,
they try to take on way too much. They get overwhelmed. They're burnt out. And then they eventually, have some crazy mental breakdown, or the team quits, or a customer leaves because you're not serving. You're trying to do too much. So we as a company, we've developed a system to navigate this chaotic process. And it was inspired after I wrote a book called Newbie, which is my memoir inspired by bees and how bees make honey.
Oh, I love that.
That system is called the 6P system, 6-pillar system. And its sole purpose is to improve performance and profit through consistency, creating consistency throughout all your company across these 6 pillars. This framework is used from 0 to $10 million businesses across a variety of segments and industries. And so for those listening, I am fairly confident that it can apply to your business as well. We'll unpack that a little bit on our webinar today.
Very
So our focus today is three main parts. The first one is we're going to envision your $1 million machine. We're going to envision what it takes to make your business a $1 million machine. Then we're going to shift into executing with scalable systems, some tips that I have to improve your execution. And lastly, we're going to elevate your capacity so you can work less hours and get the same results. So some pointers for today, just you and I, how to win. Just commit to growth. Commit to taking something you learned today and integrating it into your business, elevate each other in our space. That's just you and I today, and have fun. People seem to be, they get overwhelmed when they hear the word systems, but systems are fun. It really can create a lot of space for you to enjoy life and enjoy this process more. So if you're watching the video, you could scan this QR code. It's going to take you directly to this 5-part free course where you will actually build the first system in your business, which is aligning your goals, your tasks, and your people. And that's something we're going to be talking about throughout our presentation today.
Awesome.
So
let's scan that. We'll also send it through in the chat as well.
Perfect. So let's start. Envision. You are here today. You are here at 50K, 80K, 100K, and you want to get to your $1 million machine. So it's, you and I, we're in this spiritual world, heart-based world. We use the word manifest a lot. But I actually want to really think through all the mechanics of your $1 million machine. So we're going to first start by calculating what you need to actually make your $1 million machine come true. So we're going to start with your core offer. Everyone selling something has a core offer. You have an offer, you have a price. And so if we have a price of $1,000, the next question is, how many of this thing do you have to sell? So to make $1 million at $1,000 a piece, you have to sell 1,000 units. How many can you fulfill? This really depends on your business model, on how many you could work with at a time. If you have a course and this course is $1,000, you can fulfill as many as possible because it really doesn't take any of your time since you have this course. But if you're more of a service-based business, maybe it's not unlimited. The next part is, what is your conversion percent? Everyone that you speak to or everyone that goes to your page, what is your conversion percent? And by calculating this, you see how many people need to know about your offer. So if you need to sell 1,000 and your conversion rate is 10%, that means 10,000 people you need to show this to 10,000 people. And then we look at a couple of other rates. How many people see this? How many impressions do you get? 100,000, because you use that same conversion percentage. And then how many people book calls? This number grows higher and higher and higher. And when you get to the point of all of this is that a lot of people need to know what you sell. But if you're operating on a manual basis, you're never going to get to showing 1 million people about your product. Does that make sense?
I love this, Ernesto. And I think it's something that often we don't want to look at because this to get this kind of reach, like a lot of times it does take investment in time, investment in money. And I think we often feel like, we build it and they will come, but it's a numbers game. And when we look at it this way, it's a lot less emotional, right? It's more rational. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of the game you need to play in order to get to your goals. It's a conversion game,
It is. Yeah, it is a conversion game. And, we mentioned briefly the 6 Ps, but just looking at this mathematical equation, how many must you sell? This is a sales conversation. Like, how many sales conversations do you have? 1,000? Okay, so let's create sales systems so that you can effectively sell 1,000. How many can you fulfill? That's more of your projects. How many projects can you deliver? If it's a course, it's unlimited. If it's a service or a product, it really impacts how you set up your project management and fulfillment. And how many people book? How big is your marketing? How big is your promotional platform, which is the fourth P? So really, you have to set up between people, projects, and promotion. Setting those three parts up will help you manipulate the mathematics so that you can get to your $1 million machine.
Well, one thing I want to add that I think is so valuable here as well, which, business, much of business is an experiment, right? You can improve the performance of a lot of pieces of your business, if you're running experiments. But in order to run effective experiments, A/B testing or whatever you want to call it, or try new things to get better results, you need to have a control group, and your
Right.
systems help act as your control group. So if you're saying, I want to improve my sales conversions, right? Once people get on that sales call, well, you need like a system in place that's going to make sure that, okay, it's like, what emails are firing off, what's the process or whatever. That is your baseline. That's like, so you can start adding in those variables to see if you can improve it. But what a lot of people too is they see, this isn't working. They're trying a bunch of things, but they can't tell whether something's actually being improved or not because there's so many moving pieces.
Right. And that's part of the first this kickoff with envision and goal setting. It's like people usually set 7 goals. And so, forget not knowing what's moving the needle. It's like we're just spreading ourselves too thin. We're promoting on 7 different platforms. We're trying to move in different channels. Like it's just too many different parts to keep track of. So that's why we're getting in our presentation and now like set very narrow goals so you can like make sure you execute on them and measure the impact of those goals.
Absolutely.
So bottom line in all of this, aside from figuring out the sales and the project management, a lot of people need to know about your stuff. And I know that's like what you teach with your sales and marketing accelerator. And when it comes to goal setting, we want to set our standards to continuously increase our impressions, increase the top of funnel. So people think of goal settings. It's an interesting topic. Back in the day, I read the book The Secret and I made my first vision board. And these were pictures that I loved, that I wanted in my life, picture of New York, picture of my family, picture of restaurants. And as I continued to look at this vision board, it kind of created my experience. And the reason for this is because your priorities predict your actions and where you place your attention. And so in our companies, what is our vision board? I mean, for you, Victoria, like what is your vision board in your company? Let me ask.
Yeah. Well, I have it right in front of me, actually. I just have,
Okay.
like I should I should pull it up, but I can't. No, I've got like nine women leaders whose businesses represent the type of business that I want, and I have my revenue goals actually right in front of me as well. The waterfall system that you just did, right? Understanding how many outreach I need to do a week, how many sales calls that needs to turn into, how many how many conversions that's going to be into paying. So those are front and center. But not a lot of people do that. And it's sort of like you need it sort of in your face in order to
Correct.
dictate what actions you take each and every week. And even with it right there, I mean, there's weeks that go by, I'm on a Thursday and I'm like, oh man, I didn't do the things I needed to do to push that needle forward because you get
Correct.
caught up in other things. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to, the day is short. I wanted to point out what you said, like you have your goals in front of you. And so your goals are literally the vision board. Like it is the vision board of your business. It is the dashboard that has your goals, that has the things that you want to do, and and then a couple of other pieces of information on there. So my exercise for those listening now, and if you download that mini course at the beginning, it's basically walking you through these different parts. But what are the 3 goals you've set for yourself this quarter? And write them down. And most people, when they set goals, they sometimes set results-based goals. So like you mentioned revenue goals, and there's nothing wrong with revenue goals, but when you don't hit a revenue is something that's totally out of your control. And when you don't hit a revenue goal, sometimes people go into this spiral and all this like self-doubt comes in. But if you set a goal like reach out to 100 people, like we have here, you can start to say, oh, okay, I reached out to 100 people, that resulted in maybe $5,000. If I want to make $10,000, maybe this goal needs to be reach out to 200 people. So like really setting those action-based goals. And this small shift of, instead of outputs, increase your inputs, like doing more action will lead to more results. You said it earlier, like all business is a math game. It's a numbers game. It's an equation. And when we talk about systems and your $1 million machine, this is the thing that just drives you to do more, get more action out of your day. So when people are setting goals, I have, this is just a slide sharing that idea of inputs, of setting inputs based on leading KPIs, which if you never heard of a KPI, is a key performance indicator. And so questions you want to ask yourself start with like, how many outbound calls can you make to a prospect or a potential referral partner? How many hours can you dedicate to content creation? How many blog posts or podcasts can you record? How many events can I speak at? How many times can I speak in public or go on IG Live or TikTok to just improve your speaking? How many videos can I record for my course? How many actions can you take, which will lead a result in your business? And so another question I have for those listening, when you define these goals, share them with people. So aside from Victoria, who is your mentor in this program, like who else can help you increase these actions? Like who else can you share your goals with so that they can help you increase the number of actions you're taking? Who can introduce you to 10 different podcast hosts that could have you so that you could speak more? Who can introduce you to a workshop so you could speak more? Who can create content for you so you could speak more? And that's just a speaking example.
And also important to share this with your team.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, some people have a team, some people work alone. When you're working alone, hopefully you're part of a mastermind or a community that, that can help you execute on these goals. But all of this starts with like having a proper vision, a proper focus for what it's going to take for your $1 million machine to come true, and then set targets, and then just start executing on those targets, which are actions. So let's shift to the second part, which is all around execution. And I know, Victoria, you primarily speak with women, and they make this amazing joke between a man and a woman that, men can't multitask and women are like superheroes. They're like moms, they're cleaning the house, they're cooking dinner, they're picking up the kids, they're like doing all these things. And that is all amazing. I mean, it is all amazing. I also like to show this image of like, this represents this on your internet browser. Like, I don't know right now, Victoria, pop quiz, like how many tabs do you have open right now?
Yeah, probably too many. Very similar to this.
You, me, and everyone else. And, these tabs just become like all the different things that you're working on in your business. And every time you change tabs, it's going to take up around 20, 25 minutes to like get back into flow, get back into focus. And these tabs, just like I said earlier, in your business, you set so many priorities. And you continuously are switching these priorities, switching the actions, or trying to do too much. And this is killing your ability to execute. This is killing your ability to create results because we're continuously changing tabs. So when we think about in your business, aside from just setting 3 to 5 goals at one time, a couple of things. One, you're going to want to track progress. You're going to want to see how you're moving towards these goals. Here, there's just 4. You could have up to 5, but I really would encourage people to stay max of 5. And then when you're working in teams, you want to assign owners to all of your tasks, because as you start to take up these goals, there's lots of different tasks that people on your team are going to be taking up, or contractors that you're working with. You're going to want to assign owners and make sure that everyone that you know who is supposed to execute on what. Another part, assign dates on when things are going to get done, and ask for support. You know, as we're going after these goals that we set for ourselves, we run into roadblocks. If we set a goal, we want to reach out to 100 people, but maybe we don't have channels. So like, we need to know what is in the way of each of these goals, and then ask for people for support. They're in your mastermind or they're listening to your podcast, like reach out to Victoria, ask her for some advice. Like, hey, I'm stuck on this goal. How can I move forward on this?
I'm just going to stop you here because this is so important. And it's the thing that throws the wrench in all of it. It's the thing that trips people up the most. And a couple of years ago, like, I was introduced to this idea when we were goal setting to also like discuss the risks, right? What are the, either before you start the goal, but even when things come up, like, you need to understand where the resistance is or where the roadblocks are so you can unblock them. But a lot of times people hit the roadblock and then they just shift their focus and then they don't actually finish the goal, you know?
Yeah. Well, part of the benefit of having 150 tabs open is that you can just close the tab and just focus on the next one. But if you're committing to these 4 things and they're happening non-negotiable, you don't really have room to pivot. I mean, of course, there's always room, but like, inside of your commitment of I'm going to get these 5 things done, you are choosing that you're going to get these 5 things done through and through, hell or high water. So that's where, you know, create, like, really minimizing on like what is absolutely critical, what is the absolute control that you are putting in your business. That's where the power of choosing these 3 to 5 things. A last tip that kind of really gets in the way of execution is we have our to-do lists, and we like have 9 things on our to-do lists for each day. This is just a screenshot showing of inside the course, again, when you're listing out all of your actions you have to take for each goal. Like, we have 8, 10, 30 things on a to-do list, and like, we don't actually ever get them done. Like, maybe we do 3 things, but then the next day our list of 6 has everything from the prior day, so that list of 6 is now 14. And then the day after that, like, it's just like this amorphous blob that moves into the future, instead of actively looking at your to-do list and setting only 3 things each day and doing those 3 things or 4 things or whatever it is. Because every day we're peppered with phone calls and conversations and emergencies and kids and the boss and the contractor quitting and all these crazy things. But if we just tell ourselves, we're gonna absolutely do these 3 things today, you're much higher likelihood of getting those things done, which will move the needle on your goals.
I love this. I think this is really, really tough for a lot of people. I think that we really, really overestimate how much we can get done in a day. I mean,
yeah.
And I think it's like, listen, if you knock off all these other things, you can fill in with other, you know, with something else. You can pull something up, but I think you'd find that you end the day with such a sense of accomplishment and a feeling of peace when it's like, okay, the 3 top, I got them done. If I could do extra, it's a bonus. But you're right, because I mean, oftentimes we just keep piling and piling, and it gets longer and longer and longer, and then we just don't get anything done.
Right. And then you have these 150 tabs open, and they're not tabs in your browser, but they're 150 checkboxes on your list, and you know, all the self-doubt and the shame and all that stuff creeps in. So the exercise out of this section, it's like, what are some ideas that you can improve your execution? And you can kind of reflect on that on your own time. But is it, you know, looking at is it closing tabs at the end of the week? Is it choosing only three tasks per day? Is it like documenting your risks and reviewing them every 2 or 3 days or at the end of the week? Like, all of these little shifts compound to massive gains in your workflow. So the third section today is all around elevating your capacity. And so a question I have for you, Victoria, right now, today, what would happen if you 10x your business? If you had 10 more clients, if you had 10 more projects, if you had 10 team members, if you had 10 times as many media appearances, which one would you be?
Yeah, probably the left right now.
Most people would be on the left. They would be on the right when the cash hits the bank, but like for the next, it would get old. And then for the next 3 months, they would be like the person on the left. And so there's this paradox, like we all want more, but how can we do more when we only have 40 hours a week or 50 or maybe 60 if you're really a savage? Like how do you actually do more? And this is where we call in the robots. This is where we call in automation. Now, I mentioned I was from the hospitality business, and one of the big, I was blown away when Flippy is a robot, a burger cooking robot, came out, and it like shook the whole world, because now instead of hiring these cooks in the kitchen, now there's robots in the kitchen. So this labor that you have, now you can repurpose them and have them do something else. And so something we take from this is automation will amplify your action. It will help you do more, which, go back to the beginning, like that's what your $1 million machine is all about. Like, how can you do more so that after all of the percentages, you get to your $1 million? So we're going to talk about 5 areas that you can automate in your business. The first one is content creation. Everyone's talking about AI. Everyone's talking about ChatGPT. I don't know if everyone's talking about Midjourney, but Midjourney is a really cool, like, generative art platform that happens in Discord that can create just art for your webinars, art for your IG, art for whatever that you need. ChatGPT can really accelerate how you're creating blog posts. Canva has its own AI thing now. And then I, of course, will shamelessly plug Notion's AI. It is really fantastic to helping you actually create more content, create more storytelling. And so if you can use tools like this to 10x the amount of content that you're creating, you now have 10 times more likelihood of increasing that top of funnel, those impressions. So the second part is customer segmentation. So if you had 10 times as many leads come in and they just came in, how would you know like who's a hot lead, who's not a hot lead, who's disqualified because of revenue or where they're at, what industry they're in? Could you actually help these people? And so when you take tools like Tally, for example, or you incorporate this idea of using forms to qualify your team, your leads, you can automatically assign them, hey, this person is in this industry, this person heard about me from this webinar, this person saw me on Instagram, this person's at this much monthly revenue. So you can already qualify and choose, like, where are your leads coming from? What is the type of customer that you're working with? Can you actually help this person? And using forms like this, you can really just automate how your clients, your leads, are just moving into your world.
This is so good and so juicy. It is so good. And I think that this is something that it's a blind spot for a lot of founders that I speak with, in terms of getting that information, before someone downloads a lead magnet. Right now, there's a lot of ways in which you can kind of prompt like a form. But if you have something you're giving away in exchange and those are going to be your leads, like, it's really such a time saver if you can figure out a way to get them, if they're qualified or not. Right.
Right.
That's going to increase your capacity, or your sales team capacity in an incredible way.
Right. Because if all of a sudden 1,000 people download that free lead magnet, but actually you already can, of course, this is like the design of the content and the storytelling, and it's bringing a lot of pieces together. So sometimes this is also what makes it difficult. You want to ask them how much, like, where are they at revenue wise, because you want to know if they can afford a certain service. You have to like really design that storytelling to want them to want to tell you where they're at. Because people don't just want to like give this information. They're like, okay, like why do you care about my revenue? I'm just downloading a lead magnet.
Yeah, but there's definitely a lot of different types of questions you can ask. Like revenue is one thing that makes sense.
For sure.
Yeah, there's a ton, but just think of all the ways in which you can qualify your customers, right? And depending on your business, but even just so helpful to understand where they came in from, right? How do they know you? How do they hear about you? This information on a very basic level helps you to do things like double down on what channels are working or not working. So forms are incredibly useful.
Correct. So the next part, sales cycles. We just spoke a little bit about the qualifying side, using forms maybe to improve the application side. This is just a very simple example of, after your sales calls end, you can automate the delivery of a follow-up email with next steps. Because more or less, there's the same information that you're sending to a customer after a sales call or after they watch a webinar. Like automate the delivery of that email, because that's going to just make sure that they get the information. Sometimes you have to send several follow-up emails, maybe after a webinar when someone registers. But doing that will shorten your sales cycle. Sometimes customers will just self-onboard or self-purchase the thing without a human actually interacting. The fourth area, support responses. And these are just 5 of many areas to automate. But when you are doing customer support, you can create these boilerplate emails that maybe are not just copy paste, but you copy start and then adjust as needed. But that saves up a lot of time from your support team, having to think through like what they're going to put in there. And the last part, again, one of many, is bookkeeping. So maybe if you do your own bookkeeping, you can start setting up rules. So whenever you have a transaction that has parking expenses, you can just set a rule to automatically assign it to your parking accounting category. And that just speeds up your bookkeeping process, and you get through bookkeeping just 10 times as fast because you have all these rules that are just doing it for you. So my exercise for you is how will you start to improve your system? How will you elevate your capacity? How will you, what can you implement from these 5 areas into your business today so that you can start to elevate your capacity?
Well, I want to pipe in here because I think one of the easiest, it's not listed here, but I think one of the first easiest things to implement is onboarding.
Onboarding. Of course.
I mean, and I guess that, and that works for, product or services, right? Once someone makes a purchase, what happens? That it's going to be more or less the same process every time. And that could be an easy sort of, once something's paid or invoice is paid, firing off some automated emails and those next steps, or getting people excited for their product to arrive, or whatever it is. Like, I think that's one of the lowest hanging fruits. And of course, making sure our customers feel taken care of is so important for, just for customer satisfaction and lower churn rates and all that stuff. So
yeah, and referrals and engagement and all that amazing stuff. Yeah, definitely customer onboarding is part of the journey, which, I mean, you got to look at the whole customer journey. Every single touch point there is super key, because your customers can become your biggest marketing team. Forget the marketing team. Your customers can become the biggest marketing team.
Exactly. It's done well. Yeah.
So rounding us out, what's next? If you scan this QR code, give me some feedback, share open questions from our conversation today, and have just information on like free resources, including that course that I mentioned in the beginning. I want to round us off with a story, and the story is around tiny wins. So I mentioned in the beginning, systems, people think of systems as this big grandiose thing. And if you just find 1% gains every single day, at the end of the year, you're going to be 37 times better than where you were today. James Clear wrote his book, Atomic Habits, and he has this visual that is basically showing like what is 1% compounded every day. And that's 37, almost 38 times better. If you get 1% worse every day, after about a year, you pretty much wiped out all the gains you created. So focus on that 1%, because in 6 months, you'll be unrecognizable. You'll have 6 times improvements. But if you keep doing it after a year, as I mentioned, that'll be 37 times improvements. That's my closing story.
Awesome. Ernesto, this is so fire. And I think what I love about how you break this down is it feels manageable. And I think if we focus on that 1%, I think it's like with systems, we often like want to eat the whale. It's like you kind of say, no, I'm just gonna like set it. And this is a huge mistake. I've been victim to this a lot, where it's like, I'm just gonna set aside, a whole day or a whole month or a whole quarter to like focus on building this system. But it just gets so unwieldy and feels so big and so overwhelming to start. But if you focus on just these tiny little things, what are one thing I can do today to make this 1% easier, or one small, right? You can start with one automated email, or you can start with one rule in your bookkeeping system. It doesn't have to be, you clear your whole day to knock this out and feel like it's going to take just tons of your time. So I think that is a really important reminder and something we all need to implement. But if any one of us want to work with you in a larger way, tell us about like what you do and how you work with clients, just for us to know, because I think everyone here needs more guidance. Everyone listening, more guidance on system building.
Yeah. So I work with, as I mentioned, all kinds of clients, from just starting and needs a product to, I think, $9 million revenue is our largest client. And I always tell people to start with a course. So I have a course. It's called the Starting with Systems Accelerator. It has 30 lessons, and each of these lessons are specifically designed to help you not get just a 1%, but hopefully like a 5% win every single lesson. So when you compound these 5% wins after 30 lessons, your organization is not what it was 30 days prior. Yeah. So I have this course. It's 30 days. It also comes with 3 months access to our mastermind, where every week we have office hours. We actually have 2 office hours because we have students in Europe and Asia now. And I help you live. Implement the 30 lessons. Once you finish those 30 lessons, we move on to more advanced stuff. But the course has been specifically designed not to overwhelm people, to give them each breadcrumb that they need to move on to the next piece, and to implement a 6P system for them.
Yeah. And I will do a plug for this, because I am inside of your accelerator and I receive your lessons each week. And what is so great about what is inside the accelerator is that the videos and the lessons that you break down are so bite-sized. Like some videos, just a couple minutes, and it helps you build those bricks, right? Because you're at the end of the rainbow are these systems, but you have to lay the brick, that 1% every single day. And with your guidance, you know exactly what to do. I think a lot of times when we're building systems, the problem is like, you don't know what to start, you know what the next step is. And so that's why it tends to take so much time, because then you start like side Googling things. And then it's like, well, which system is best, and which, what should I be using? And no, but you just tell us exactly what to do. For folks that are interested in joining the accelerator, though, what is the URL they can go to learn more?
Startingwithsystems.com.
Startingwithsystems.com.
Easy. Yeah.
Easy as that. That is so awesome. Really cool. Can you walk us through maybe like some of the stages of the accelerator before we go? So we're walking through exactly what we did today, but what we actually do is like get it done. So it's not like learning. It's like explain how you
yeah. So my biggest gripe with most trainers is that you go to a workshop, they give you a bunch of PDFs, and they say, great, like we'll see you next year. And so it's not just the 6P diagram. It's every single lesson has a video lesson and has an exercise, and you actually go into your Notion space.
You actually in the moment.
you are actually executing in the moment. You're actually putting in your goals. You're actually assigning leading KPIs. You're actually mapping out your CRM. You're actually deciding what are the different stages in your buyer journey. You're actually mapping out what is your core offer, how many steps do you have to take, creating a template so that every time you bring on a new customer, you click a button, the whole thing is there. You're mapping out your promotion plan. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's like taking like a $15,000 implementation and like doing it in a month.
Yes. And you did it piece by piece. And so you're finished with this product. So you inside the accelerator, you get the lesson, but you build it as you're learning. And then when that's like the time you dedicate for the day of your systems, maybe you dedicate 20 or 30 minutes in that day, but then you have something produced. Like it's your workable system is being built as you're learning from Ernesto. So I think that is the biggest highlight of the accelerator. Obviously, it's very valuable to have you, but you do such a wonderful job at walking us through building these systems that it's, a lot of times you maybe don't even need, the questions are answered, right? You're there for support, and obviously people have different situations, but just like what you teach and how you walk us through building the stuff is invaluable. So everyone should go check it out. Startingwithsystems.com. Right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ernesto, for being here. This was so amazing. And it's so incredibly important. And the one thing I want to end with, and I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on this, because you had the slide about manifesting. And I think that what building the system does, it actually opens you up to receive, right? So
Correct.
there's not that barrier, right? So when you have the system in place, like the sales system or whatever, that you can just turn on, you actually open that mental, that energy space for actually welcoming more leads. When you have an onboarding system that you're so confident in, you open up that energy to welcome more of the clients, right? There's not that resistance, because you're not going to be like that woman on the left in that slide.
I was about to say, you're going to be the woman on the right, and you're just like, if 100 people sign up, you're going to be like, amazing.
Right on. Exactly.
My course is optimized, like 100 people, 1 million people, doesn't change anything in my life. And so you're just so confident already.
Exactly. Absolutely. All right. Well, Ernesto, thank you so much. And then aside from that, where do you like to hang out online? Where do you like to, socials that you like to be on that people can follow you?
I like to be on Instagram. I am just starting a Whole30 digital detox challenge, and I'll be posting about it every day.
Awesome.
But yeah, Instagram. I'm like learning Twitter.
And your handle? What's your handle on Instagram?
It is Ernesto_CPD.
Awesome, Ernesto CPD. Anyway, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the teaching, and I hope everyone goes and checks out the accelerator. And also, there is the free course. There's a little taste. So if you want a little taste, you can go into the free course. But I definitely recommend the full accelerator, because that's where you're gonna get it all done. The free course is a good starter, but you want to get it all done. So this quarter it is out of your hair. The accelerator is the place to go.
Thank you, Victoria, for having me.